What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the Hot Seat. I am your hostess with the mostest, P. Koffe Brown, and we are live on all social media platforms. And we are super excited to be in the building with these amazing people. If you head to P. Koffe Brown, everyone on the panel, you will be able to share to your platform. So you just can go over there and share that baby right onto your platforms. Everybody in Clubhouse, welcome in as you're coming in. Go ahead, ping some people in the room. We get ready to have a dope conversation on tonight. We're going to be talking about daddy-daughter issues. Can the dysfunction with your dad cause challenges with your man? As everybody is sharing, and we are getting our live streaming community in tonight. Welcome in to everybody. Welcome in. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and also Instagram. So welcome in to everyone. As everyone shares that live stream, you'll be able to see everybody hopping in tonight from our different platforms. So again, welcome in to this week's edition of the Hot Seat. Were you guys able to share? All right. Y'all share? Everybody share?
Yeah, share.
All right. Awesome stuff. All right. So we're going to get the party started on tonight. We're going to have our soft introductions so that you guys can meet this incredible panel that is here with us on tonight, talking about this intriguing topic, daddy-daughter issues. Can issues with my dad cause challenges with me and my man? This is going to be a great conversation on tonight. So welcome in as you're coming in. Go ahead and share with your community. Let your friends, neighbors, and relatives know that we are live on all social media platforms, and we're getting ready to get this party started. So we got two new faces on the hot seat. This is our fourth season of the hot seat, and we have two new faces in the building on tonight. So we definitely want to introduce them first. One is Toxic Bay. I eloquently call him, although he's not toxic, but he deals with toxicity every single day. The actual toxic coach for toxic relationships, Taylor Made Speaks, is in the building. Taylor, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let our community know who you are and what's up with you. You're on mute, Taylor.
Ooh. Let me do that again. 1, 2, 3. Hey, everybody. My name is Taylor Made Speaks. Look, I know you're probably thinking why I'm excited is because I deal with toxic relationship. Yes, that's right. I go in the gutter and help people exit out of toxic situations. And so this is what I do. Also, I do motivational speaking. I am an author. I just want people to take action and to get things right with their life. I don't care about the accolades. I don't care about all these things that you have done. It's great, but guess what? Let me see some action. I'm Taylor Made Speaks. Thank you so much.
Taylor is one in a million. He's so happy. I think that boy been drinking some joy juice or something. My niece is also in the building on tonight. Her first appearance on the hot seat. Dominate. Let these people know who you are, honey bun.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay, so they call me Dominate. Y'all probably want to know why I dominate, but it's because I dominate anything I put my hands on. So I sing. I'm an artist. I'm in the middle of writing a book, actually. It's called Walk This Journey With Me, right? That's the title of my book. I plan on trying to drop it 2/22/22. One, because it's like that year's never going to come back around. So yeah, that's me.
That's what's up. So welcome to the show. We got my other toxic friend in the building. He won't admit that he's toxic, but he is very much toxic. Jason Thibodeau.
Nah, I'm
Jason,
just
you
I
are
had my
mute.
mic off on purpose. I was just talking, just ad-libbing. Nah, hey, how y'all doing? Jason Thibodeau, hailing all the way from Houston, little community called Missouri City, South Texas. Actor, writer, author, all out, just crazy guy. I don't care if it crosses my mind, I'll say it. It is what it is. Your accountability partner. Just put it that way. So, welcome.
And again, like I said, y'all, he is toxic. Next up, We have one of my other amazing friends who has been coaching longer than like literally all of us combined that is here on the platform tonight. He had a birthday yesterday. So he went 1 year more around the sun on yesterday. So y'all give it up for my boy AD Roberts in the building. AD, holla at your people.
Listen, glad to be here. Thank you so much, Koffe, for allowing me to share this wonderful time with you. I am AD Roberts. I am a success coach and a clinical hypnotherapist. Yes, a hypnotherapist. And getting into the subconscious mind to help unroot some of these deep-seated traumas that many of us deal with, especially because of our relationships with our parents. So I think it's perfect for tonight. Glad to be here.
Ooh-wee. And last but certainly not least, this guy has on shades and it is at night. So yeah, that part. The international best-selling author, and he's getting ready to drop another project here in a hot minute. Super excited to have him on the platform with us tonight. And he is borderline toxic, a little bit toxic. Had a toxic video earlier today. Jason Hendrickson, go ahead, introduce yourself.
What's up, everybody? It's Pastor Jason Hendrickson. I'm the senior pastor of the Restoration Tabernacle located in Brooklyn, New York. I am international best-selling author, recording artist, CEO of my own clothing company, producer, songwriter, so much more, even a babysitter if the money is right. So, we'll take.
Did you say even the babysitter? I'm done.
Money got to be right. The money got to be right.
I am so done. You must be talking about your grandbabies because you ain't gonna watch nobody children, okay? So dig this. This is going, and I hope that no one takes offense to what you're going to hear tonight because it's going to be a little sensitive for some people's ears, but it will be very valuable information. And so on the platform tonight, we do have two certified master, well, actually four certified master life coaches. And of course, Jason has been a part of our organization ever since the inception for our publishing house. And he definitely has dealt with us, with some relationship issues. He was a part of the project Why He Married Her and Played Me. So was AD as well as Jason Hendrickson. So all of them played a huge role in that project. And interestingly enough, there was a chapter that did talk about some challenges with the daddy-daughter concept. So we have a strong platform of coaches in the building on tonight. And then, of course, my niece, she does have a talk show alongside my sister that they have on Thursday nights. And they talk about a lot of different topics, including ones exactly the same as this. So we're getting ready to have a really tight conversation about this on tonight. So AD is going to actually open us up with the conversation tonight, and we're going to roll with it from there. But listen, the question on the table, the question of the hour is, if I have issues with my daddy, does that mean that it's going to translate to show up and manifest in my relationship with my man? Or am I going to be able to compartmentalize it and just have beef with my daddy and it never have an effect on my relationship? So AD, I'm yielding the mic over to you.
We can't hear you.
AD, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I think I'll just go ahead and jump right out there on the, to the far right. And unfortunately, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that if a woman has had a turbulent relationship with her father, whether she realizes it consciously or not, there are some subconscious traumas that are there, and those underlying issues sometimes will raise their ugly head, and she may not understand why. She may not understand. It may be abandonment issues. It may be abuse issues. She may not like the fact that if a man's voice raises above a certain level, why she begins to shut down. There's so many variables in the equation because I have coached, as you said, Koffe, I have coached for so long, And most, and fortunately, but unfortunately, most of my clients are women. Because, brothers, sometimes we just kind of tough it out. We thug it out and, think we could do it on our own instead of getting professional help. Women will, seek out a little help. So in this space, y'all, I've seen so much devastating trauma at the hands of fathers. And it definitely shows its head up in many aspects of life, and we definitely cannot count out this when it comes to relationships.
So you guys heard it here first. We're gonna keep the party rolling. Taylor, you are your expertise, your niche is dealing with toxic relationships. What has been your experience in supporting women getting out of toxic relationships that they pretty much are the toxic person in the equation as it pertains to their issues with their dad?
No, absolutely. I think if we're going to peel the onion, let's peel it, right? Most women, if not all, usually look for their father, right? You hear a lot of women say, I'm looking for a man that opens the door like my father. I'm looking for a man that treated my mother like my father. So we can honestly say that that most women are looking for a man that resembles, and not saying physically, but resembles their dad. So once we have that foundation built, then we can also say that whatever transpired between she and her father, subconsciously, like AD said, she's going to play that out in our relationships. In her relationship. But I love to talk about history, because history matters. A lot of people say it's unfair that you look at history. Well, being a prior law enforcement, history plays a lot. No different than going to the doctor and they dig up your history, right? History is the foundation. It gives us kind of a snapshot on what really is happening. So 100%, I believe that whatever you have gone through in your past, and I don't care who's on this stage, whatever we all have gone through in our past, good or bad, it does affect us moving forward. And especially when it comes to this conversation, women and the relationship with their dad, whether good or bad. Yes, it's going to play out in your life. Some people say, well, I don't even talk to my father. Well, that's fine. But is there some resentment that is there with your dad that subconsciously, like we talked about, is going to play out with resentment in men? Let's talk about it.
Listen here. Listen here, Dominate. I see you over there scratching, daughter. I see you. Taylor just opened up Pandora's box and he expect the ladies to sit in it because that was fuss. That was fuss what he just said. Go ahead, Dominate. Go. Say what you got to say because you're scratching. You got something to say. Go ahead.
Okay. I can't relate because my dad is here. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with my daddy 24/7. Do I look for the same qualities in a man that my dad have? Absolutely. But I personally dealt with it on the opposite end. I had men who had daddy issues, who translated what they dealt with their father with me. So it's just as many men that deal with daddy issues that we don't talk about because we're men and we're macho and we can't feel and we can't be emotional and things like that. But when you get a strong woman, right, most men can't deal with that or let alone understand that, because I actually had my daddy in my life. So he taught me how to be independent. He taught me how to do things on my own. I know some men are intimidated by that. So I don't have daddy issues. It was just men that had daddy issues that for whatever reason I attracted them. But I didn't know that they had daddy issues until later on down the road. So that's all I gotta say. I yield the floor.
All right. Well, we're not talking about the men tonight. We talking about daddy-daughter issues.
But that's what I'm saying.
We're not talking about the sons of God tonight, daughter. We got another night for you. We got another night for the sons of God. We talking about the daughters of Zion tonight. That's what we're talking about.
I mean, yes, I do look for the qualities in my father, right? Into a man. I do want a man to open up the door for me. I don't expect him to pay for like everywhere we go. Like, it depends on how long we've been together though, right? So it's like, it's vice versa. Like, I catch a check, he'll catch it, or whatever the situation may be. But I do look for those same qualities that my dad does with my mom, like open a door and get roses. I say don't get them from me because I kill them. I do look for like little gestures. It's the little things that matter to me that I look for. It's not nothing big, or because money don't buy me, I got my own, so that's all I gotta say.
All right. So dig this. We're gonna head over to Pastor Jay really quick. We're gonna go around. I see y'all with your fingers up like we in church. I see y'all. Yeah, we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back around the moon to all y'all on tonight. But Pastor Jay, with you being you actually are a certified master coach as well, and you also are a pastor. So when you think about the issues that you've seen manifest in the years that you've been in the clinician space, how has that translated? Is it something that because AD said when we started the conversation that women cannot separate the challenges from dad with their other relationships. Like, they can't a woman cannot compartmentalize the situation with her dad and leave it in its place and not have that affect her relationship with her man. How true is that?
I think it's 1000% true. Because when you look at the makeup of a woman, the way that God designed you all to be is for you to look to the man for certain things. Because when you look at creation, God created everything, and the only time that he said something wasn't good after he created it was man. Everything that he created, he looked and said, that's good. But when it got to a man, he said, that's not good, because the man was by himself. So from the origin of creation, you all were created to be in unison with us. And anytime that dynamic is thrown off, whether it be through the relationship of a father, a husband, any male figure in your life, you were created and designed to be in agreement with. And anytime that agreement is not there, it causes trauma. It causes a crisis. And women have this innate ability to remember things that men tend to seem to act like they have forgotten. But the truth of the matter is, all of us remember the trauma that we've experienced. It's just that when it comes to this situation, I really think it goes back to the lack of men understanding the responsibility of what being a dad is. And when I'll give you guys a quick example. When Jacob was getting ready to die in Genesis, the 49th chapter, the Bible says that he calls all of his children to his bedside and he begins to lay hands on them and prophesy to them. And it was the job of the father to speak into the child as to what they were going to be, as to what pitfalls they needed to avoid. That was the honor of fatherhood in that culture, in that time. And I think that if we get back to teaching men the responsibility and the honor of what it is to be a father, because anybody can make a baby. We've heard that said thousands of times, but it takes a real man to father, to nurture, to protect. The husband is the one that bands the house together, that protects it from enemies and outside. So I'm not going to purposely abuse my daughter to set her up to think that that's normal. And even for me as a father, we come from the Black culture where we got whipped for everything. But at a certain age, I had to cut that off because my daughter is now developed. She has body parts and I can't be hitting on her because subconsciously, I don't want her to think that that is the norm for when she meets a area in life that she disappointed the man in her life. And the result of that disappointment is physicality. So there's just things that we as men have to make the change, because a lot of this really is on our shoulder. It really is.
Jason Thibodeau, hop in. I see you wheel spinning.
Man, these wheels been turning, burning rubber and everything else, man. Let me tell you. Daddy-daughter issues, can they cause a problem in the relationship? Hell yeah. Does it necessarily mean that it will cause a problem in a relationship? No, not necessarily. My girl, Dominate, you ended up saying something earlier, and I thought it was very powerful, but I wanted to add context to what it was that you were saying. You were saying that a lot of men have issues with strong women, and there is some truth to that. But also understand that there's a difference between a strong woman and a mouthy woman. You understand? And that's not directed at you by any means. I'm just saying, to understand. Some people, with some women, and I mean, I like to say adults, some adults think that because you're mouthy and you're trying to stand up for yourself, that you're the loudest person in the room, that's strength, and that's not always strength. One of the things I've learned as I've gotten older, sometimes strength means being quiet when, stuff isn't going right. But going back to the daddy-daughter issues, I mean, really and truly, let's just put it into context, because I like accountability. We all have challenges, everybody. I don't care who you are, men, women, etc. However, how you channel those challenges is what will determine your outcome, okay? So if your dad was not present, or if your dad was abusive, or etc., what I would always recommend, and because I am a girl dad, I have two daughters. My oldest one is a senior in high school. My youngest one's in the 6th grade. I am a girl dad. So just like Mr. Hendrickson was saying, you got to be very careful in how you treat them, especially as they start to develop, right? And how you handle them. But I don't lay off of them either. I mean, I also let them know what the expectations are, because I want them to have a realistic outlook on life as they get older. You know what I mean? And I think that's where sometimes as dads, we fail our daughters, is because we spoil them so damn much to where when they get into the real world, not everybody gives a damn about your feelings, if that makes sense. And that's one of the things I tried to let them know. You're looking for somebody who will work with you, somebody you can team build with, somebody who is approachable, that won't necessarily down you, but you also want somebody who's going to keep it real with you. And we have developed a culture with a lot of the hip hop and everything else over the years, where everything is ball in, you know what I'm saying? What can you do for me? And what we're forgetting is that we have to be adults and be accountable for our own actions and what we bring to the table. If you bring toxicity to the table, you're going to get toxicity back, or you should not be surprised if you do, especially if you're dealing with somebody as a man who is confident themselves. So depending on how your dad was, if your dad was strong, if he wasn't strong, if he was one of those sorry guys that always was the yes, dear man, or whatever else, like they said, you're looking for your dad a lot of times because that's who you grew up with. But you also have to be careful. Now, the things you don't like about what you saw in your dad is what you need to be looking for and paying attention to in a potential spouse. You understand what I mean? And a lot of times as we go through our relationships, we overlook this stuff. So, I mean, really and truly, I know I talked about a lot of different things. At the end of the day, it's all about accountability. I mean, yes, everybody has some type of, mama issue, daddy issue, etc. But how you handle that? I mean, are you just well, I had daddy issues and this man made me mad and he wasn't there for my mom, or he put his hands on my mom? Well, okay, but what are you going to do with that going forward in your relationship? Your potential spouse, and what who you're looking for when you're dating. Like I said, the loudest person in the room is not always the smartest. Sometimes when you sit back and actually take a look at the room, you'll see who people really are. And that's just coming from somebody who's a former loss control consultant. I mean, I grew up and I made a living in loss control, and consulting and stuff. So I had to pay attention to people's actions, reactions to what I do, what I say, etc. And sometimes I'll push limits just to see what you're willing to do and what you're not.
All right. You said something that made me want to head to the next question I want to add the ladies. Is there a possibility that our husbands, our dads, they have set us up for failure in relationships? Have they given us too much? Have they conditioned us to always get whatever we ask for? Have they conditioned us to believe that, we're this princess and everything rises and falls with us? Have our fathers, the good dads, can that cause relationship issues? I'm gonna start with Lady Robin, then we'll go over to Coach Chandra.
Well, how are y'all? Touchy subject tonight. Touchy
Listen in, we
subject.
coming in hot. We coming in hot.
Touchy
They come over
subject.
the
So I'm
top.
gonna come in just like everybody else did. I'm gonna come in real hot,
Come on.
real quick. To the pastor. I forget your name. I forgot, but I was listening. You sounded very well. Although a couple of things that I disagree with that the panel has said. I don't personally believe that your father can dictate your relationship in a good way or a bad way. I believe that the responsibility, and I believe that was the last gentleman that talked, the responsibility literally lies with you. What you want to do, what you're looking for, the essence by which, and I do believe in God. So let me start off by saying that. And I know after 21 years that my husband, the bishop, is the head of this house. However, it never cost me to lose my voice. My voice didn't end because his voice began. Actually, what it did was made a trumpet sound when the both of us got together. So when I look at relationships, I don't look at it based on what happened in my past. I look at it based on what's going on in my future. What did I learn from my past to help me go towards a better future? What am I bringing to the table? Because you're not talking about men tonight, you're talking about women. So how does what my father did affect me? I let it have no effect over me. I understand it. I learned lessons from it. I got better in it. I now, when I married my husband, I knew what I was looking for that I may not have gotten with my father. For my children, Dominators on a panel tonight. She is 32. She is our oldest child. We have 5 and 9 grandchildren. So when I look at what I'm looking for in my future as a woman, I'm not looking for my daddy. So my husband didn't come in with daddy issues. I dealt with those issues prior to my husband. I dealt with whatever those issues were. And you can read my book to find out what those issues were. But I come from a very loving mother and a very, very abusive father. And I could have went a different way. I could have went the way that some of my friends turned out. I was on drugs. I got off drugs. I did a whole bunch of stuff that I wasn't supposed to do. But I believe that set me up to be prepared for what God was sending me. My real Boaz, the man that would be able to lead me. And I do think sometime, I agree with the young man, that sometime us as women can be a little mouthy. Others say that it is a strength. I believe that the strongest person in the room may be the most silent person in the room. The way that I got my husband was that I kept my mouth shut. He was watching what I was doing, not what I was saying. And then what I said lined up to what I was doing. So that's my opinion on the relationship aspect. And I don't believe that daddy issues should play a role in your relationship. Sometimes it do if you're not healthy. That's another thing that we as Black people do not talk about. It's okay to go to therapy. It's okay to find out what's wrong. It's okay to dive into yourself. It's okay to look at yourself in the mirror and decide, hey, am I ready for this? Is this ready for me? Can I really do what I'm asking for? Do I want just a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am? Or am I looking for more? Am I looking for the essence of who I am in my future? Am I looking for a vision? Do I have a vision? So those are some things that I would say. I yield the floor.
So your relationship with your dad actually prompted you to do something different. So
Right.
it did have an effect on your relationship because you made a choice for you not to connect yourself to someone with those same mannerisms and behaviors.
Not all though, because there are things about my father that are good, right? What I'm saying is that it did not dictate or determine what I was going to become in the relationship. not what he was going to become, but what I added to the relationship. Who was I prior to getting married? Who was I prior to joining together? That's what I look for. So prior to all of that, it didn't affect my relationship because I dealt with me. That's what I'm trying to say. When you deal with
you did do the work though, because
right,
if
right.
you had not have done the work, then you would not have gotten the results that you have. So you still took the initiative to definitely do what you had to do so that you would not end up with the opposite results. Did you say something? Because you was on mute the whole time.
No, I was saying that you're right. You know, I just want women to understand that whatever issues that you have, daddy or not, if you deal with you, we always look at other people as a mechanism or a standard by which to live. When God has already given okay, I'm coming out. When God has already given us the standard for our life, He's given it to us. All we got to do is read the blueprint. The blueprint ain't changed. We may change, but the blueprint has not changed. I yield the floor.
So, Coach Chandra, same question. When it comes to the daddy issues, when it comes to the daddy challenges that some women are facing, that some people don't even really realize that they have issues that have, like what AD talked about earlier with the subconscious mind. You know, let's go back to that for a second. From 1 to age 7, our subconscious mind, all we do is receive information. We're constantly receiving information. We're nothing but a download. We're nothing more than a huge download system where we're habitually receiving information. If that information was not accurate, how do we address the challenges that come along with the wrong information being downloaded into our system?
Well, ma'am, I did come into a hot conversation. Good evening to everyone. A couple of things that come to me just as I've heard so far and what I've heard, and I got to echo what Lady Rob said, is that sometimes what we fail to do is understand that we are our own rescue. My dad is not responsible for the healing that I have to do as an adult woman. He's not responsible for that. We also sometimes hold our dads at a certain level of expectation that we were not even mature enough to understand. As an adult, I understand my father a lot better than I did when I was, growing up with him. And I have to understand too that as an adult, I can understand how to take away the foundational principles versus expectations. So I don't hold a man to the standard of, you got to treat me the way my dad treated me. No, I take from the foundation that my dad laid. My dad was a provider, or is a provider. He was a protector. He was an encourager. He was a supporter. He encouraged anything that I attempted to do. But on the other side of that, there was some, other things, some negatives there. But I can't hold the man in my life or the relationship to the standard of my dad. But I can look for those foundational principles that he laid in my life. When we understand that we are our own rescue and stop blaming other people for how we mishandle relationships, when things go wrong or things go sideways, the first thing we'll say, or what I've heard, or, may have even said a couple of times myself, well, I'm looking, I want a man that's going to treat me like my dad treated my mom. All right, and you don't even know all of the ins and outs of how your dad treated your mom. You saw what they wanted you to see, but, as an adult, you start learning some stuff. I know I have. And I'm like, ooh, didn't know that about my dad. Didn't know that about the relationship. So we can't we can't say completely that daddy issues make us a certain way or that daddy issues point us in a certain direction. I think if we leverage foundation versus expectation, and then understand that I am the only one responsible for me. As an adult, I balance the information. I balance what I know, what maturity has taught me about my relationship with my dad. But it's not, I'm the only person that's responsible for me. So I'm my own rescue. So I can't lean into that.
But I think we're going a little around what the question was, because the question was not posed, do we hold fathers responsible? The question was, does it have an effect? Everything that we do in our lives, we learned from someone.
Absolutely.
I didn't just wake up and know how to tie my shoe. Someone showed me how to do that. I didn't know how to dress myself. Somebody showed me. So I didn't even know how to be relational until I saw a model of a relationship. So psychologically, it absolutely affects. It doesn't make them responsible, but the question was, does it affect? Because I would not know how to relate to anyone without seeing relationship models in front of me. So my responsibility as an adult now is to make a cognizant decision that, listen, I'm not going to repeat the negative that I saw, but I'm not going to ignore the negative that I saw either, because it's so easy for you to, especially when it comes to our families, to get caught in generational curses and generational repeats. So we can't just say, nah, I'm responsible and I don't care what my father. No, that's not the truth. And subconsciously, if you, like, I'll give you guys an example. My father, when I was young, he used to pluck me in the back of my head for being bad. And years later, I'm 48 years old now. One of the mothers in my church came behind me. I was sitting at the table with my wife, all my children and my grandchildren, and she came and plucked me in the back of my head, and I turned into the Incredible Hulk. And my wife had to grab me because I was getting ready to, I'm just keep it real with you. I was getting ready to smack this old lady because it brought back all the trauma because of what my father used to, and my father didn't mean no harm by it. He was just this, he was like, stop being bad. Stop. But he did it so much that it enrages me if anybody touches me in this area of my head. So the things that we saw and the things that we've been through, it absolutely does affect us. But I had to make a cognizant decision that I'm not going to slap Mother Johnson because that's Mother Johnson. But it didn't take away the fact that it brought back all of those angry feelings, all of the frustrations, the feeling of being helpless that I used to feel when my father used to pluck me in my head. So I think for us to say that it doesn't affect us, and that's not what we're asking. We're asking, especially from a female perspective, I want to know, because I have nothing but, I got one grandson and the rest of my crib is nothing but women. 3 daughters, 2 grandkids, 2 granddaughters, and 1 grandson, bless his heart. And if he didn't come around, I would have no wins at all. But I want to know, because I need to monitor what I do, because I don't want to have that, negative effect on them to make life more difficult, because it's already challenging because of this for us. But to ignore the fact that the relationship, the dynamic between a father and a daughter does not play in your development in your relationship is completely false. Sorry.
So when we talk about the effect, that's what we're talking about, is, does it have an effect? Does the issues have an effect on our relationship with our man? Does it actually have an effect if we have had daddy-daughter issues? So if there's unaddressed, unresolved, undealt with, unrecognized, unhealed, that has an effect on how we respond, react, connect, participate. Everything that we do in a relationship is going to be affected because of the fact that those things haven't been addressed. So I do agree with what Lady Rob talked about when she talked about she addressed her issues, but she also talked about the good stuff that her father did. So when we really think about the effect of relationship, there's no way that we have to put it into a big picture. In the big picture, we look at our parent from this perspective. We know our parents from a, let's say, a vertical relationship, right? They would be the authority in our life and we would be submitted under their authority. We can't look at it horizontally because we're not in a relationship with them like that. It's always going to be vertical. Somebody's going to be the leader, we're going to be the followers. Even in our older age, as mature adults, we're not going to just say or do anything when it comes to our parents. There's still that level of leadership, right? When it comes to the children versus the parents. And so when you kind of think about that dynamic and that relationship, when you look up to your dad, because really, honestly, as a girl, we were supposed to be able to look up to our father. That was supposed to be pretty much our God, little g, in human form. That's our first impression of what God was like. Like, this is my dad. He's everything I need, everything I have to get, everything I have to obtain is coming through this man. When I ask, he yields something to me. When I do what I'm supposed to do, I receive a reward, so on and so forth. And when those things, when that first relationship, that first experience of authority versus subordinate, when that is off, it will definitely have an effect on how we deal with our purpose partner because we didn't have that healthy trajectory initially. Doesn't mean it has to stay that way. It does mean that we have to go in and address what was dysfunctional. Because some of those relationships, truth be told, they were literally just dysfunctional. If you had a father who was cussing you out, using profanity, slapping you in your face, stuff like that, but at the same time, he'd make sure you had food, clothes, and shelter. Or, that's a pretty dysfunctional kind of scenario. And that can spill over to our relationship with our purpose person if we do not address it. So yeah, it definitely has an effect. But I do love what everybody was saying. And one of the key things that we all can agree on is that you have to go in and do the work so that that effect doesn't end up being a long lasting challenge or a long lasting adversity. And then we have to make sure that we pay attention when we see signs and patterns and things like that, even within our own children from our foreparents. Because some of that we may rectify it, we may have dealt with it, and it can show up in another generation behind us. That thing can literally come back again in another body. And you're like, that behavior is real familiar. I've dealt with it, but guess what? My son acts like his grandfather. Well, how's that possible? Because there's an imprint that we don't have control of, but we are responsible to address. So I know Coach Chandra wanted to hop in, and then I saw Lady Rob unmute as well, and I see the guys want to hop in. So Chandra, then Lady Rob, and I know the guys are coming behind that.
Yeah, to answer Mr. Hendrickson's question, does it affect you? Yeah, it has some effect, but the other side of that is that I get to decide how it affects me or what I do with that effect. So yeah, of course everything affects what you do. It's a cause and effect. Everyone that came into your life or did anything or imparted good, bad, and different, it frames your framework and belief system on how you move forward. But as an adult in relationships, you get to choose how you're going to deal with the effect and how that rolls out in your life.
I'll just piggyback off of her. The question was, thought that the question was, how does the daddy-daughter relationship affect your relationship? It does not affect my relationship. Did my father have an effect on me? And I'm a part of now a new relationship, yes. But I see it like P. Koffe talked about. I see my father in my relationship as leader and follower. And then when I change to a new relationship, I don't have the same love for my father that I have for my husband. So my leadership changed, my vision changed, my outlook on life changed when I married my husband, when I got in a relationship with him. So yes, it affected me in not such a good way. So I waited until I could deal with the effect of what I grew up with so that I wouldn't bring that effect into a new relationship. I yield the floor.
I think one of the challenges is, though, many women may not even realize that they have issues because, especially as Dominique said, there are a lot of strong women, and in most of our homes, we're raised by women, and those women have to be strong because they're typically by themselves. So the model, the head of the house, in most instances, not the father, but the head of the house is the mother, and that father can be on the periphery. But the problem is many of the issues that women do have, they may not recognize that they have them, and they play out quietly in all sorts of ways in relationships, especially the romantic relationships, like what we're talking about tonight. And I think that's a direction that, that I'd like to see, our conversation go is, how do we recognize this unhealthy behavior and root it out and say, well, you know what, here is where it came from. Because, case in point, have a client that is so accepting and is so allowing because she was disappointed by her father so many times that she subconsciously learned that it was okay for men to disappoint you because that's just what they do. And so instead of requiring that the men in her life be men of their word, she just accepted the shortcomings at face value and just rolled with the punches. When in actuality, that was a dangerous situation for her because it led her down a path of, disappointment over and over and over again because of her allowing. Where did that come from? It was systemic of her father creating that trauma in her life very subtly because he disappointed all of the time. When he said he was going to be there at 4 o'clock, he didn't come at all. I'm going to be there to pick you up at 5. Never showed up. So that little girl sitting on the porch waiting on her father, for hours, that plays out so heavily, especially in the subconscious mind. It weighs out heavily for our children, it's for our girls. So, if that, now I'd like to see us take that direction with these wonderful coaches that we have here too. I yield.
And I want to apologize. Hey, Dominate, I wasn't talking about you, dear. Come on and get into this conversation when I was talking about the strength and the
No,
soft.
I'm just
Oh, okay. I was
listening
about to say that had nothing to do with you. I noticed you hadn't said nothing in a while. But no, I agree. I mean, there's definitely an effect there. And Lady Rob and Miss is it Chandra? I appreciate y'all because what I'm hearing as well, and it's something. I'll be 45 in a couple of months, but it's something I don't hear from a lot of ladies that I come around is that same accountability. So that's, while yes, it has affected you, you saw things that you like, you saw things that you didn't like, and you're taking accountability of your own life. And that's powerful as well. And I think more people need to do that. And outside of daddy issues, you also got to deal with society issues, the things that society tells us is acceptable and what is not, and that's why I was saying it's like it definitely has an effect, but at the end of the day, we all got to be adults, and that's one of the things that we should always be in the process of is always in a learning environment. You learn different people, so you learn how to deal with people at work. You should learn how to deal with your spouse. You're going to see things that you like, you don't like. You're going to see things that remind you of your father that you did and you don't like, and how to handle things. Like Koffe was saying, I'm a cursor. You know what I mean? So I'm one of those people, I will raise my voice, I will curse. Very rarely will I ever raise my hand to anybody if I can avoid it. You know what I mean? But I keep in mind that at some point, my daughters might either go towards someone with a foul mouth or someone without. You know what I mean? And that's something that I have to be accountable for myself. But I did appreciate the accountability that I heard when y'all were speaking.
I'm sorry. I'm not I'm just listening to everybody. I think the key word that everyone is saying is work. Right? We have to work at it. You have to work on you. In order for you not to bring in the toxicity to your relationship. If your daddy was abusive, work on you. Because two broken people can't be whole. Right? So if you're broken and he's broken and y'all trying to make something work, it's never going to work. It's always going to be an epic fail, right? Because no one wants to do the work. No one wants to go to therapy. No one wants to talk. No one wants to talk out their issues. And if they can't talk with their issues, they don't want to go to a therapist for the therapist to help them talk out their issues. So I think a lot of the times as women, right, sometimes we feel like talking to our girlfriends is the best therapy ever, when most of them don't have no men, right? So when we're talking to them and they're single, they're going to give me single advice when they have no man. And so then that plays an issue, because they'll be like, oh, well, girl, my man did this, or at this time or whatever, or my dad used to do that. That's a trait that my dad did, but I don't have that same issue that you have, right? And so talking to people who are also toxic, right, you'll bring what they talk about to your relationship as well. So then now you got their toxicness and your daddy's issues and everybody else's issues, and the problem is that people won't work on them and keep everybody out. So I think, honestly, like, just hearing everybody and what they had to say, it was really about you working on you to not bring in those type of issues in your relationship. That's
So how do we address it? Let me start with Taylor. Definitely want to hear from our coaches. How do we address this? What would be some of the strongest tactics, the strongest armor against us repeating history, if you will, the dysfunction that we experience translating into our relationships? How do we address it and rectify it?
Well, one way to address it, and we've talked about this on previous shows, and I think some of it is cultural, is to quit keeping secrets. A lot of times we don't know that what we're dealing with has been dealt with for generations because nobody talked about it. Nobody shared. Nobody said, I just stop keeping secrets. That's where it starts, or where that cycle can be broken. The next thing is, be okay with accepting your part of the entire situation, of the whole. Again, I'm a firm advocate for and believer in do your own work. Acknowledge what's there and do your own work to strengthen the relationship, to strengthen yourself. Those two things, I think if we just talk more about the roles that dads play in daughters' lives, that moms play in sons' lives, if we just talk more about the roles and stop keeping secrets and learn to be a little bit more communicative, that we would solve some of these issues that we see going on.
Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that we need to do the work. But I also do think that we do bring, once again, what we have learned from home, right? And so I can say to a woman, right, because we're talking about women, right, that I don't care what your daddy taught you. I don't care how he treated your mother, right? I want to start from you, right? But it would be naive for me to say that, because that girl or that guy still have characteristics from their father and mother. Now, it's great to say that, oh, my father was abusive and I went and got help for being abusive. What about all the other things that's making the relationship toxic that you can't see that is toxic, such as I'm a clingy person because my father always made sure that my mother was safe when she got to her location. When she came home, they always communicated throughout the day. They always did that. But you're overbearing in your current relationship, but you feel that is okay because it doesn't scream an alarm. So there's things that we have to understand and see. And here's the thing. Oh, my mother was always a caring person, so I'm very caring. But you're so caring that is toxic. You are so giving to everybody. You take the time to give to your neighbors and your friends, but ain't giving to your husband because you're such a giver. But it's so toxic. But you learn these things from your family, your mother and your father, right? And so one of the solutions that I have, to be honest, is for you to go to somebody professional, if it's relationship, if it's a therapist, and you need to unpack the things that are seen and unseen. You need to know who you are. I don't care that your father opened the doors for your mother. Okay? Who cares? Who cares about that? What do you want? Do you want these doors open for you or you don't? Because everybody's different. But we tend to model our lives off of what our upbringing is. And I see this over and over and over in relationships, whether you're doing it intentional or whether you're not doing it intentional. And if you want me, really peel this onion back, okay? A lot of times we end up with the wrong person. There's a young lady that was in the feed, and she said that she wasn't looking for her father, but she ended up with her father, who was abusive and a liar. Okay. Now, my question is, how did she end up with somebody that she wasn't looking for? Is because subconsciously you do look for the person that you were belong. It says, the Bible says, cleave from, leave your family, right? You're supposed to leave your family and go to the man. But subconsciously, we tend to try to find a person that we were with. Now, if your father and mother, and I'm gonna close land, if your father and mother was, say, an alcoholic or an abuser, right? And we somehow ended up with a person that's an alcoholic and abuser, right? What tends to happen from a toxic relationship standpoint of view is that we don't leave. We become the savior. Because if you go back in time in their life as that 16 and 9-year-old person that they were facing with their mother and father, right? And they wanted the best. They wanted their father to treat me nice. Daddy, why are you doing this to me? When you fast forward to the man that they're with today, they are trying to save actually their father. That's why they protect the person that they're with today, and they don't leave. They're trying to rewrite history on what happened in the past. And so when we talk about people that, for the ones that's on the stage, yes, we did the work. We did the work before we got into relationships. But in all actuality, that's out there, they're not doing the work. And they're taking what they have learned from their parents to move forward. Now, I just want to address this real quick. Women that are strong, that says that, and I don't like to use that word strong because a lot of women get offensive when we use that word strong. But they say a lot of people or men are intimidated by my strength. Now, let me just ask y'all this question. Is it because your parent, i.e., mother or father, prepared you for that strength? And we think it's a positive thing and it's a great thing, but we're running away the person that we're with over and over and over because our strength is so overbearing that it has no room for that man to operate in that space. And I think I just want to land right there.
Now that's good.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so he takes it. Hold on, Dominique. Hold on. Let me let the coaches finish giving their solutions and then we'll hop in. Jahan, because he's coaching as well, he does have a certification in coaching as well. So what is a resolve? What is a resolve? Taylor gave a whole bunch of different resolves, but what is a resolve that we can give our community to take away from here to say, hey, I do realize that I have some stuff going on that I really need to address. How am I going to start unpacking that? What can I actually start doing right now that can definitely help me to start getting over this hurdle?
I think we have to find a safe space where we can be transparent. Because in our culture, especially for people that are abused, there's such a heavy burden of shame that goes with that. People are ashamed to talk. They're ashamed to admit they're ashamed to disclose. So I think that we have to find that safe space where we can, be honest, and our honesty won't be weaponized against us, whether we're the abuser or the one that's being abused. We have to find a space where we can get the help that we need. And then we have to truly learn how to love ourselves. I had a major debate with some preachers the other day because they were like, it's absolutely not biblical to prefer yourself over others. And I said, whoa, I don't know about that, because if I'm to do what the scripture says, which is the greatest commandment, that we love one another, I love my neighbor as I love myself. How can I properly love Jason and AD if I don't know how to love me? So I have to take the time out to get to know, number one, that I'm valuable and that I have a purpose and a destiny in my life. And once people begin to see their own self-value, they'll begin to look at other people as value, how valuable they are. And I think that we have to also, in our community, start learning how to get away from toxic people. Just because we were together 30 years don't mean we got to stay together another 35 years. If it ain't working and you're not happy and you're miserable, then we need to learn how to break up amicably, and you go your way and I go my way, because I do believe, this is my personal opinion, that there is someone designed for each and every one of us that will love us and honor us the way that we see love through the lens of God, which is intent and extent. The intent when somebody tells you that they love you is for you to believe them. But the extent is, how far are they willing to go to prove to you that they love you? Because talk is cheap. Anybody can say that they love you, but we need to see action and intent. And I believe that once we begin to love ourselves as men, as fathers, and you guys really love and value yourselves as women, there's still a word called standards. That even if I saw, and this is where I do agree with my two sisters, that even if I saw abuse my whole life, I want better for me. I'm not going through that. And I have to do what I have to do to remove myself from that. And so I think it's all about how we begin to look at ourselves, because I'm a firm believer that whatever you speak, you live.
That's good. AD, what's a resolve that we can use? And then we'll go over to Dominate, and then we'll head over to Lady Rob, and then Jason Thibodeau as we head out for tonight. But AD, what is a resolve? What is something that we can do right now, this very moment? Somebody may be watching and they need a solution, something that they can execute for the moment that will begin the process for them to start addressing this and getting over the hurdle.
I think the begin is, you have to be honest with yourself first and foremost. Pull out a piece of paper and a pen and say, this is my relation. This is the last relationship I was in, or this is the current relationship I'm in. And ask yourself, what were the problems in it? What were the issues that kept coming up over and over again? And as you write those issues, ask yourself, how did I play a role in that process? How did I play a role? What was my role in this problem right here? And once you answer that question honestly to yourself, then you can take the answer and begin to go down the rabbit hole and say, well, why did I do this? So if this was my contribution to the situation, well, what made me do that? And what made me do that even further? And where did I learn this from? Is this something that I learned as a defensive mechanism? Is this something that I learned as trying to teach my partner how to love me? Because there's so many things about our behavior that can it's just all over the place, because we try to dominate and manipulate our environment emotionally. And so women are masters at that part. Women are masters at controlling their environment emotionally, because that's how they're wired. But if you want to begin to do the work, get a piece of paper and a pen and begin to write down the issues that you saw that came up in your relationship, and ask yourself honestly, how did you play a role in that and where that came from?
That's good. That is a great place to start the process. And that you definitely can do that tonight. Literally, when we get off here, you can start that process tonight to write down what is your part. I think Coach Dearden, Lady Rob both talked about that earlier about the accountability factor. You saying, yeah, this is not somebody else. This is me. I'm the denominator, the common denominator in my experience. What do I need to address differently? Lord have mercy, I'm calling you by your regular name. Dominate. What is a takeaway that you can give the community tonight on where they can start the process of dealing with their daddy-daughter issues?
Something that I would say to a person, the same thing that I'm just gonna piggyback off of what he said, AD. And what I found out is, actually you taught me that. Actually, you write down the pros and cons, right? And write down every pro that was okay, and then every con that was wrong, and then burn it up, and then remember it no more. Don't You got to work on you. So I would tell people, work on yourself. If that means being by yourself, because sometimes you'll be in a season where you're by yourself, and it's okay to be by yourself. But in that season where you're by yourself, work on you. And I would just say, start with you. And if you start with you, then you won't have those same issues in your new, because you know what to look for and what are red flags and what are not. And if they're red flags, walk away. That's what I would say.
That's good stuff, Lady Rob. I know that you do counseling when it comes to women, and also in the leadership space of the women's movement that you spearhead. What would be some takeaways that you would leave with the community tonight to actually start to address this, the daddy-daughter issues, and the people that are being affected relationally by the fact that they have not addressed what happened before with their parent?
It's such a good question. I'm probably going to piggyback on this on my own talk show on Thursday, so my community will be able to see in depth. But if I was taking away something tonight, the first thing I would do is tell them to acknowledge that there is a problem. When I think about the women that I talk to, the first thing I always tell them, my platform is about looking at yourself. Have you looked in the mirror and saw what you needed to see on the other side of the mirror before you look at what you're trying to get to? So the first thing, again, like everyone said here, is to look at yourself and then take responsibility for the part that you played in whatever it was. You can weigh the pros and cons, but will you weigh you in the pros and cons? Will you see not just their side of what was good and what was bad, but what about your side of what was good and what was bad? And to do that, sometimes you have to have a conversation with the breakup. And I would say just be okay with being okay with, even when I counsel people in divorce, I believe that you shouldn't get married without counseling. I believe that you shouldn't get divorced without counseling, because 9 out of 10 times there's children or other things involved in the relationship. So I would say, look at yourself, be responsible. And then when you do weigh the pros and cons, weigh them against yourself. I yield the floor.
Jason Thibodeau, what would be your takeaway for this? You know, you being a girl dad is I think you're the only one on the panel. Well, no, Pastor Jay is an all girl dad too. Aren't you an all girl dad, Pastor Jason? Because I know AD has both genders. God bless you, Pastor Jay and Jason. Both of the Jasons got all these Lord have mercy. God bless y'all.
Right.
God be with y'all. God help y'all in your journey. Amen.
Amen. What do they always say? That for you to get something, you got to hear it at least 3 times, right? So what I'm about to do is reiterate, and I love the fact that Lady Rob brought this up, because actually I was about to bring up the same thing, and that is you have to face yourself. Growing up as an only child, I didn't have anybody to blame things on. If something was messed up, it was on me. My mom worked during there 24/7 because of the type of job that she had. So even when she was at the house, she was in her office working, you know? So I spent a lot of time by myself, and you get to know yourself when you do that. And also, Miss Tanisha, that's in the comment section, you hit the nail right on the head, is you got to be able to face yourself. You have to be able to be by yourself at some point. And also, what I was talking about with Lady Rob is one of the things I've always recommended ever since I was probably in high school or something is what I call the mirror method. If you can't face yourself in the mirror and look at yourself, see, when you're looking in the mirror, then that's you looking right back at you, especially if you're looking in your eyes. If you're looking at yourself in the mirror in your own eyes, you're looking in your own soul. And it's hard to lie to yourself when you do that, right? You may not have the conversation that you need, but you can't lie to yourself. And what I've realized with a lot of friends, especially a lot of female friends from years back, years past, a lot of them couldn't face themselves. There was even something I would stand there in the mirror with them, and they would end up walking off because they didn't want to face what it is that they've been through and also what they've done, right, to other people. If you can't face yourself, what do you think other people are looking at when they see you, right? And also, if you can't face yourself, how do you ever expect to heal? So that's why I like what Tanisha, shout out to you. I know we've been going back and forth in the comments section. That's one of the things that she said. I mean, you have to be able to heal. You have to be able to spend some time to get to know you. When you get out of a long relationship, I don't care what nobody says, you lose a piece of your original self because you're sitting here, trying to make things work with somebody else. Y'all are both coming together. They lose a bit of themselves, then you lose a little bit of yourself, and y'all are trying to become whole, right? You got to find yourself again. And that comes with being honest with yourself. Another thing that I would definitely say in terms of healing is you have to understand that if you did have a traumatic experience with your father, ladies, is especially when you were a kid, at some point you got comfortable with that trauma. Okay. And what happens is, like the young lady was saying, that even though she wasn't looking for her dad, she found her dad. And I can't remember if it was Taylor or AD or which one of them was saying that, one of the things that subconsciously, even though you weren't looking for him, that's who you found, is because you have to get comfortable with yourself and understand that you got comfortable with the trauma. So even though that's what you were trying to stay away from, when you were faced with that person, there was a comfort level there. And because there was a comfort level there, you were able to, let that person into your space, right? So, I mean, we have to get to know ourselves again. We got to get off the social media. We got to stop playing along with all of the other things. And we got to start spending time with ourselves, because, I mean, let's just be honest. We just had, what was it, a former Miss Teen, Miss America, or whatever, whose platform was mental health, actually commit suicide. Right? So something clicked, something traumatic clicked for that to happen. So we need to start taking care of ourselves. And that starts with us being honest with ourselves in the things that we find comfortable with ourselves that aren't good for us. You understand what I'm saying? So that would be my advice. I mean, if you really want to move forward, you have to get comfortable, number one, being by yourself, facing yourself, and understand that you have probably some traumatic comforts with whatever it was that you didn't like about your dad.
All right. Well, you guys have heard it here first. We had a phenomenal panel of thought leaders tonight, some coaches on the platform who actually shared with you from their heart about this particular topic. It is a sensitive topic. We did get quite a few DMs during the discussion. So, it is a very sensitive topic because at the end of the day, we all have a love for our parent, period, regardless of if they were not the best parent or the absolute best parent. We have a love for them. And that love it's not going to go away. It's not going to change. It's not your love for your parent. It's not going to die. We do want you to understand that it is your responsibility to love you more than you love anybody else. And when you do that, like Pastor Jason said earlier, that is the catalyst for you to be able to have the type of experiences you want to see manifest in your life. With that, we are closing for the night. We are over by about 16 minutes. We normally like to have the dialogue for about a good solid 60 minutes, but we did go over just a little bit tonight. But it was definitely worth hearing from our coaches as they gave us a resolve. We don't want to just talk about a problem. We definitely want to talk about a solution and how you can change your life. So after we get off, all of the thought leaders will be leaving their contact information inside of the chat on Facebook. And if anyone resonated with you and you definitely want to move further with them, then we have several coaches that are here on the platform tonight that can definitely support you in doing that. I believe that all of them, to my knowledge, are open for clients. So you can definitely tap into them, find out how you can get a discovery session with them and see if you guys are a good fit for each other. So you can take this journey to really, really have a healthy relational experience, the type you really, really want to have. So with that being said, this has been another edition of the Hot Seat. Daddy-daughter issues. Does it have an effect, or can it have an effect on our relationship with our man? And you heard it here first. The answer is yes, especially if you have not taken the initiative to resolve those issues. Well, we'll see you guys again on next week. And we do appreciate you guys tapping in with us. As always, make sure you're following all of these amazing thought leaders that you have seen here on the platform tonight. They're all doing some absolutely phenomenal work in each and every one of their spaces. And again, happy celebration of life to A.D. Roberts. He decided to come hang out with us tonight. So we wanted to acknowledge that it is his celebration of life. Of course, it was on yesterday, but this is still part of his Born Day week. And so we are grateful that he came in and hung out with us for the segment on tonight. It's been a pleasure having TaylorMade speak with us for the first time. Of course, he's going to be back, as well as my niece, Dominate, is in the building on tonight. And she, of course, will be back as well. She is actually officially the youngest panelist that we have had on the show so far. So we do have her brain in the building on tonight. So definitely excited about having her with us as well. Well, you guys, we will see you guys next time on the Hot Seat next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. Until then, grace, peace, and blessings. And we'll see you guys again soon. Take care, be well, and God bless.
Coach P. Koffe Brown and the DFG Publishing House family presents She Chose Him and Screwed Me, 9 Reasons for Her Decision, a brand new anthology project by 9 incredible women. They share with you their reasons as to why they would date one and choose to be married to another. Order your copy today from your favorite author or simply go to www.dfgpublishingtoday.com.